Hey everyone, it is Tuesday, March 28th, 2023, a week before Passover or Pesach. And I've been chewing on this a lot. And tripped over it regarding, how do we observe Pesach? How do we keep it? What are the laws according to it, what we're supposed to do, and seeking out what is man-made tradition versus what Yahuwah Elohim has given us regarding how to keep his holy feast days. And it was interesting how I noted that in the direction given regarding how to keep the Passover or the Pesach, circumcision was a requirement in order to participate in the Pesach. So I was like, interesting. And knowing too, if you want, you can go back to the video just before this. I talk about it more because this is going to be more of a lengthy video showing you kind of where Father led me in my studies. But it'll talk more about the requirements and then how the covenant of circumcision was given to Abraham and how it's supposed to be for forever. It's all in there in that one video. And I'll put it in a pinned comment below so you can find it easy. But I just have to keep pointing this out, guys. Y'all need to remember that because of the lying pens of the scribes, Jeremiah 8:8, we are to fully rely on Father. And he will reveal the truth through Ruach HaKodesh. What is truth and what is lies. And the more we pray, the more we study, the more we get to know him, we'll realize that, you know what, there's some things here in the Bible, this book that we call the Bible, that most people, most Christians idolize. There's some things in there that don't sound like things that he would say, that actually are contrary in a very slight way, because discernment is not discerning between the obvious right and wrong. Discernment is between right and almost right. So there's going to be a little bit, kind of like those pictures you used to see as a kid, like find the differences in the picture. It's a little slight difference from picture to picture. Same thing here. So, we're reminded by Yahusha in John 5, it said, you pour over the scriptures because you think you have eternal life in them, and yet they testify about me. But you are not willing to let go of that Bible idol to come to me so that you may have life. Okay? You're not willing to let go of that Bible idol. You're not willing to get out of the boat and walk on water, following him. Okay, that's what this scripture is saying. This is what he's saying here. Okay, because I put out a pretty big post yesterday evening regarding the image of the beast, okay, and the name of the image of the beast. And I had a lot of interesting comments on that post. But people go, you're denying, you're saying that Jesus Christ is not the Son come in the flesh, blah, blah, blah. You failed the test of the spirits, blah, blah, blah. No, wrong, no. I believe in the one true Yahuwah, Elohim, the creator of all. His son, Yahusha, came in his name. Okay, so again, the lying pens of the scribes have changed all the names of Father, Yahusha, the Son, and Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh. They're all changed in the Bible. It's like anywhere that was mentioned, Satan had his scribes go in and rub it out and put in his false names and titles. That's what happened, guys. So no, I don't deny that Yahusha has come in the flesh. I affirm that the one true Son of Elohim, Yahuwah Elohim, came in the flesh. Okay? I affirm it. I strongly affirm that it did. So don't try to come at me and say that I am, speaking through false spirits, because I am not. What I'm doing is I'm telling you the truth and showing you what he's revealing to me as I'm seeking him, just as he says, I'm coming to him. I've let go of the idol Bible. I'm like, you show me where the truth is in this thing and I'll agree and accept it. And you show me where the errors are and I will reject it. And that's what he's been doing. That's what he's been doing. Because he's ever faithful. He says, ask, seek, knock, and you will receive, basically. Okay, so that's what I've been doing. So it says right here in verse 13, I have come in my Father's name. This is not difficult. If the Father's name is Yahuwah, and Yahusha, salvation through the Father, Yahusha, that's his name. Okay? Son of Yahuwah, Yahusha. He came in his Father's name, and yet the world does not accept him. And he says, and if someone comes in his own name, Jesus Christ, you will accept him. There's no Jesus Christ in the name of the Father, Yahuwah. Do you guys see? I can't make it more clear. I cannot make it more clear. But how can you believe, since you accept the glory of one another, you want to believe the same, you don't want to face the ostracism that I have faced coming out of all of these false doctrines that if you've been following me for any length of time on my channel, you'll see I've come out of all of them and I face a lot of ostracism. I have people tell me that I'm a false teacher. I'm not a teacher. I am just a follower of the way. I am Nasarim. I am following the Good Shepherd, Yahusha HaMashiach. I am listening to the Father, Yahuwah Elohim's voice. Okay? I'm not the teacher. There's only one teacher, and that is Yahusha. And I am just sharing with you what he showed me. I am not a teacher. I can't say that more enough. But I have everybody else who wants to accept glory from one another because of their pride. They don't seek the glory that comes only from Yahuwah because they're afraid of what others think. They don't have any strength. I mean, they might see it. Like I did share a witness of someone I used to fellowship with. In his own words, he said, oh yeah, I see Paul as a false apostle. I see all this garbage and, I see the narcissistic personality, and this man was actually a psychologist, so he should know what a narcissistic personality looks like. But he still didn't disavow Paul. So people can see that the light is on and still say, no, it's night. The sun is rise, but they can't see it. They'll disavow it because they are too worried about the glory that they get from other people. They don't want to be seen as different. They don't want to be all those things that come onto someone who stands for the truth. And that's exactly what Yahusha says. They hated me first. So if you follow me, they're going to hate you too. Okay, hallelujah. But that's the problem. So we're here in verse 14 again, or 44, excuse me. How can you believe, since you accept the glory from one another, caring about what other people think about you? Are you a good Christian, quote unquote? But you don't seek the glory that comes from the only Yahuwah Elohim. Do you guys see why this is important? You have to let go of what the world thinks, what the world has taught. All the pulpits, I cannot affirm this anymore. All the pulpits in every single church, every congregation is a false pulpit. There are wolves in those pulpits. There's not a drop of truth other than what is mixed with the lies that is taught from those pulpits. That is Babylon. And Revelation 18:4, Yahusha is saying, come out of her, my people. But many are not listening. Many will stand here and accuse those of people like me who are few, very few, who are standing for the truth. After we receive his truth, the reason I share what he shows me and I'm not quiet about it is because I now have a responsibility to bring it to the truth. I need to bring the truth to people. He did not place me here on this platform and give me all this knowledge and not expect me to share it. So if you've been given this information, one, you must seek him out about it. You must seek confirmation. You must seek understanding through the Ruach HaKodesh, asking for wisdom. And then you are duty bound to share it. Okay? And we know that anything that we ask according to Yahuwah's will, he hears us. And he wishes all to be saved, right? All to receive salvation. He wishes none to perish, and that is his will. So that is why I'm asking and I'm praying over all of the message that that I release on this channel, that there will be some who accept this truth. The eyes will be opened, okay? Through him. Nothing of my own doing, but through him. Somehow he'll get this through to their spirit and they will be able to accept it, okay? But remember this as we're going through this message today. Yahusha said that he did not come to abolish the law or the prophets. Okay, all the prophets clear back to the beginning. He says, I did not come to abolish, but to fulfill or ratify, to make an effect. Okay, he made it into effect. Like his was the sealed deal. His blood was the seal on the covenant. It is stamped completely. What's the word I'm looking? Enforced. Okay, this is truly it. All right. So he says, for truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not the smallest letter or the stroke of a letter will pass away from the law until all things are accomplished. And that is at the very, 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 very end. When is that? We don't know. That's all on Yahuwah's plan. Okay, I'm talking about like the millennial reign, the second earth and heaven, all of that. Whenever the end of that is, that's what he's talking about. Okay. So knowing that and studying about Pesach, Passover, and what are the requirements, I was like, oh, circumcision. Interestingly enough, we only hear about circumcision in what Satan has called the Old Testament. And somehow it's disappeared in the quote-unquote New Testament. Isn't it interesting how Satan loves, oh, that was the old law. Now this is a new, better law. No, it's all one covenant, one law for one people. That's it, okay? So in Genesis 17, we see Yahuwah. He says, I will set up my covenant between me and you, and I will multiply you greatly. Talking to Abram, okay? He says, your name will no longer be Abram, your name will be Abraham, for I will make you a father of many nations. And I will make you extremely fruitful, and will make nations and kings come from you. And I will confirm my covenant that is between me and you and your future offspring through their generations. It is a permanent covenant to be your Elohim and the Elohim of your offspring after you. Okay? Permanent covenant. No expiration date. No old, new. No expiration date. Okay? Skip down to verse 10. This is my covenant between me and you and your offspring after you, which you are to keep. Every one of your males must be circumcised. Okay? You must circumcise the flesh of your foreskin to serve as a sign of the covenant between me and you. Okay? Very clear. It's not difficult. Very simple. Throughout all your generations, throughout the generations, every male among you is to be circumcised at 8 days old. Every male born in your household or purchased from a foreigner and not your offspring, whether born in your household or purchased, he must be circumcised. Like, how many times does he have to restate it? Y'all, hello. It is a permanent, eternal covenant. My covenant will be marked in your flesh as a permanent covenant. Mark. Remember, we've been talking about marks too, because we know this is the end times. People talking about the mark of the beast. The mark of Yahuwah is not only the flesh mark of the circumcision in the males, but also on his people who keep his Shabbat and his holy feast days. Okay? It's a mark. Do you have the mark of Yahuwah, or do you have the mark of the beast? Are you going to Sunday church, and are you men intact, as we say, or are you keeping the Shabbat and you are circumcised? Right? Let me point this out. Verse 14, if any male is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that man will be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. Do you understand how important this is now, guys? Okay, because again, going back to the Passover instruction, this is the statute of the Passover, the Pesach. No foreigner may eat it. But any slave man has purchased may eat, any slave man, if I can talk, sorry guys, but any slave a man has purchased may eat it after you have circumcised him. Okay? A temporary resident or hired worker may not eat the Passover. Okay? And the whole community of Israel, Yisrael, must celebrate it. Yisrael are the believers. It doesn't matter your bloodline. It doesn't matter what nationality. It doesn't matter any of those things, right? Because anyone who believes and who accepts Yahusha as their Messiah is the house of Yisrael. Okay? And it says, if any alien resides among you, who is a permanent resident, wants to observe I really got to get into a book that has the proper names more. If anyone wants to observe Yahuwah's Passover, every male in his household must be circumcised. Okay? Must be circumcised. And then he will become a native of the land. Okay? Once that happens, you become the native of the land. You become part of Yahuwah's family, the house of Yisrael. Okay? Now, I have people who come against these things that I'm sharing that Yahusha has shown me, and the Ruach HaKodesh is illuminated through the grace and mercy of Yahuwah. But I'm going to warn you that you need to read Revelation 11. Because the two witnesses have authority to prophesy. Okay, prophecy is not just bringing, I had a dream or a vision. It's also messengers. A prophet is a messenger. A prophet is a messenger. And they bring the message, the true message of the eternal covenant. Okay? This is what it is. And we will stand here and we'll witness. And if anyone wants to harm them, verse 5, fire comes from their mouths and consumes their enemies. So anyone who comes against these messages without first taking them to Father and studying them out, seeking out a matter, Proverbs 25:2, and they come and they are hasty to say, you're not speaking, you're speaking against the Holy, you're blaspheming the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh. You falsely accuse someone speaking with the Holy Spirit. Guess what? You have blasphemed the Ruach HaKodesh, which is an unforgivable sin. And it's the only unforgivable sin. Okay? It's the only unforgivable sin is the blaspheming of the Ruach HaKodesh. So don't be hasty when you hear something and you have that knee-jerk reaction. You need to take it to him, study in prayer. Now, I'm going to point out a couple things about good old Paul. 13th apostle Paul, who's a fraud, who is also the prophet mentioned in the book of Revelation, the false prophet that works to bring life and honor to the beast and the image of the beast. Okay? 1 Corinthians 7, this is what he says about circumcision. So verse 17, let each one live his life in the situation the Lord assigned when God called him. And yes, I'm saying Lord and God called him because that's his master. Lord and God here is Satan. Lord and God is what he uses. Those are the titles of Satan. Okay? And then he goes on to say, this is what I command in all the churches. This is what I command in all the churches. If you're truly speaking for Yahuwah, wouldn't you say, this is what Yahuwah commands? Not I command? Verse 18, was anyone already circumcised when he was called? He should not undo his circumcision. Okay, first of all, that is so asinine. How can you undo a circumcision, Paul? You can't undo a circumcision. There's no physical possible way to do to undo a circumcision. Do you guys see how stupid this is? He's a fool. And he's fooled many with his stupid, twisted words. And then he goes on to say, was anyone called while uncircumcised? Oh, he should not get circumcised. He says it point blank right there. He should not get circumcised. And yet we see, I've clearly shown you that circumcision is a requirement for any and all of Yahuwah's children. Those are male. That is part of a permanent covenant. His mark on his people. You must have it in order to observe all of his holy feast days and keep them and as he commanded them, right? Then he goes on and gets even better. He says in verse 19, circumcision does not matter. Circumcision doesn't matter. And uncircumcision doesn't matter. Oh, so we're speaking out of both sides of his mouth right there in one sentence. Circumcision does not matter and uncircumcision does not matter. Keeping God's commands is what matters. I'm sorry, guys. I can't help it. He's a fool. Let me read this again. I'm going to read it slower, and you can hear how he flip-flops just in this one verse. Circumcision does not matter, and uncircumcision does not matter. Keeping God's commands is what matters. Okay, Polly boy. Let me check. Yahuwah said his command was that every male be circumcised. And if it's Yahuwah's commands that what matters, then your first sentence is a joke. An evil joke. So circumcision is obviously important. I think we can all see that right now. So it's interesting, again, to see how the lying pens of the scribes have changed some things. And there have been some passages where it appears that they've even put words in Yahusha's mouth. So we're going to go to John 4, and we're going to see very evidently here that Yahusha himself did not baptize anyone. And yet the churches today will say, oh, you must be water baptized, right? You must be baptized. You must be baptized. Did you see any baptisms anywhere in the Old Testament? Did you see, when you study the Bible, do you see any baptisms in the Old Testament? Right? No. The only you didn't see baptisms, but you did see washings. And there were ritual washings for the priests, and we'll get to that in a minute. But people will try to point out Isaiah 40, because I was looking at it. I was like, okay, so who is this John the Baptist then who came baptizing? Where did this whole storyline come from? Where John was baptizing people, and the voice crying out in the wilderness, and blah, 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 blah. And people will point to Isaiah 40 as a voice of one crying out, prepare the way for Yahuwah or Yahusha in the wilderness. And make straight the highway of our Yahuwah Elohim in the desert. That's what people point to and say, oh yeah, that's the Old Testament prophecy that prophesies of John the Baptist. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Okay? The one crying out in the wilderness, that is the spirit of Elijah. And I'll show you why here in just a minute. Matthew 11, Yahusha warns us. Okay? He warns us about prophets in the wilderness, right? People claiming to be prophets in the wilderness, partly because of he knew that Paul would come on the scene, but also too this interaction with John the Baptist. And he says, what do you see when you go out? A prophet? Yes, I'll tell you. And more than a prophet. Okay? This is the one who was written, see, I'm sending my messenger ahead of you. He'll prepare your way before you. Okay? This is the spirit of Elijah, not John the Baptist. Okay? The spirit of Elijah. Okay? And I tell you, among those is born no greater than John the Baptist has appeared. So this right here is where they're putting words in Yahusha's mouth, because there is no prophecy of John the Baptist. There is no 2 or more witnesses as described by Yahuwah in Deuteronomy and of course in Matthew 18. Okay, we have those two. We have to have 2 or more witnesses, and they're not 2 or more witnesses for John the Baptist, because this is not a prophecy for John the Baptist. This is the spirit of Elijah that is going forth. So this passage down here in the green is an insertion by the lying pens of the scribes. Okay, and Luke, if we get to Luke where it says, oh, well, there's one in Luke, a child will be called a prophet of the Most High and will go before you to prepare his ways. No, because Luke, let me tell you about Luke. What I've studied about the book of Luke, 1, Luke is a physician. A physician practices in pharmakia, which is witchcraft. Luke also, there's no evidence that Luke ever was a disciple. Okay? There are many places in the book of Luke that will clue you in. One is the account, if you compare the account of the crucifixion, of Yahusha's death, you will see that there is a big contradiction between what you see in all the other accounts when you line it up with Luke. Big contradiction there. The thief on the cross, yeah, that was a plant. That's not true. Go read what the thieves on the cross said, especially in the book of Matthew in that account. Go see what it said. It contradicts what's in Luke. And people say, oh, it contradicts because it's written to a different audience. No, it's not. That's a bunch of bull. That's a lie from the pit that has been used to cover up the contradictions so you don't connect the dots. Okay? So the book of Luke, it even messes up, it inverts Yahusha's prayer when he gives the example prayer, right? Instead of saying, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, he flips it, okay? Which is an inversion, which is what you see in the Satanic Bible. That was a real light bulb moment. So Luke is not a worthy witness, okay? And people go, oh yeah, the nativity and all that's in Luke. Yeah, okay, well, keep following that rabbit trail and you'll find where it leads. All right, so before we make this video too long, let's keep going. So we're warned again by Yahusha that many false prophets will rise up and deceive many, okay? And because lawlessness, that lawless garbage about circumcision doesn't matter, uncircumcision doesn't matter, that Paul taught, will multiply, the love of many will grow cold, all right? But the one who endures to the end will be saved. You are not born again and instantly saved. It doesn't work that way. You have to endure to the end to receive salvation. Okay? And then people say, oh, well, Brenda, Malachi talks about John the Baptist. No, it doesn't. It's talking about the spirit of Elijah. Okay, Malachi 3. I'm going to send my messenger and he will clear the way before me. And then Yahusha you will seek will suddenly come to his temple. Okay? That's the spirit of Elijah. Okay, the spirit of Elijah fell on Mary, okay, so that she was ready to be the vessel. All right, Malachi 4, verse 5. Look, I'm going to send you a prophet Elijah, there it is, before the great and terrible day of Yahuwah comes. All right, so he will turn the hearts of the fathers to their children and the hearts of the children to their fathers. Now, that's what's going on right now. It's because all of this time in Jeremiah, we're told that our fathers inherited lies. Okay? We were raised in these lies, and yet now our hearts are being turned back to our Father, Yahuwah Elohim. Okay? Our hearts are being turned back through the power of the spirit of Elijah that he sent to go back to him, to observe his Shabbat, to keep his commands, observe his holy feast days, to call him by his true name and identity. All those things. Okay? And we see here too that once Elijah ascended and he was taken up, the spirit of Elijah rested on Elisha. So it's been here ever since he left, okay? It's been moving. That prophecy's been moving and fulfilled. And there are those that people don't realize it, but there are the 144,000 who are singing as if it were a new song. Because we see here in, where we see in Revelation 14, where you see that little footnote right there, they sang footnote, a new song at the top. The footnote says, as if it were a new song. Okay, but it's not a new song. It's not a new song. It's the song of Moses. It is what has been sung but has been forgotten. That's why it was as if a new song. Okay? And no one can learn the song except for the 144,000 who are the true believers, who are indwelt with the Ruach HaKodesh, who follow no one but Yahusha alone, who teach repentance and coming back to Yahuwah, to observe and keep his laws, to quit sinning. Okay? There are those who are Torah keepers, yes, but they still do not disavow Paul. They are not part of the 144,000. Only the 144,000 who are like unto the army of Gideon, which went from over 3,000 down to 300. Okay? There are tests for all of those who would qualify for the 144,000. But those who are only following Yahusha, keeping his commands, teaching repentance, making sure that people are warned before the wrath of Yahuwah falls, that's who the 144,000 are. They're not defiled, and they're virgins. As people, they're virgins, they're male virgins. No. When it talks about men, it's talking about men and women in that context. They're not defiled with women meaning churches or traditions of men. Like there's the reason why we have the harlot that rides the beast, a woman, the harlot. Okay, the whore of Babylon. There's a reason why women, those are the whores that they have not defiled themselves with. They have come out of the lies and they are embracing only the truth. Okay? And they are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. Okay? They are among the first fruits, the barley harvest, which I've talked about before. So looking more into this baptism thing, I thought, well, let's take a look and see what other religions baptize people. Because I'm like, where did this baptism stuff come from? Because clearly it was inserted into the Bible, which has drawn people's attention away from circumcision, which is the permanent covenant, to something that is not, is a perversion. Okay? So it says right here, baptism is a key ritual in many religions representing a person's entrance into their faith. Across countries or countless denominations, spiritual paths, baptism marks a start of a spiritual journey and carries with it a wealth of symbolism. So see where it says about the different denominations and spiritual path. It's symbolic of a spiritual journey, embarking on a spiritual journey, okay? So there can be in the sprinkling, it can be full immersion, it can be just, body parts. But baptism is performed in the name of the Trinity in Christianity. And I've already clearly taught that Trinity is a false doctrine. Okay? You can take any place, time, anytime after birth, as we know. Most of you know this. And if you want to read more, you can pause and read the screen. So I'm going to try and move faster through this. But as you see, baptism applies to so many different religions in so many different ways. All right? It's a ritual that is observed by most of the religions of the world. And as we know, the way is narrow. So if most of the religions in this world have some form of baptism among their rituals, that sounds like the broad way to me. In Matthew 7:13 and 14, that sounds like the broad way. I even looked into what Islam said about baptism. Okay? They believe it is it's a purification ritual. Okay, they believe it's a purification ritual, and of course they recognize Jesus as a prophet, and of course they mention John the Baptist as well. But it's interesting how they, even though they've gone through and they believe that Jesus was baptized and all of these things, they disavow it actually. They disavow Paul, interestingly enough. But Old Testament talks about baptism or some form of water purification, and that's because in Numbers 19 we see the instruction for the priests. He is to purify himself with water on the 3rd day and the 7th day, and then he will be clean. And there's there's certain directions for priests to have these kind of cleansing, purifying processes, but it's not baptism for salvation. Okay, it's cleansing to prepare to do their work in the temple for the sacrifices. Okay, but interestingly enough, it says right here, after Jesus left the world, Paul became a leader of some Christians. Very true. There were the Nazarene that rejected Paul. And he gave a new interpretation of Jesus' baptism. So they're even pointing it out that it was Paul who gave new interpretation of baptism. Okay? And here we see good old Paul trying to gaslight people again. In Colossians 2, he starts out by saying, "Be careful that no one takes you captive through philosophy and empty deceit based on human tradition." Okay? He's telling you the exact deception that he's getting you to believe. It's really easy to, believe me, I'll point you out to the bad guys. But he's doing exactly the same thing to you. Okay? Paul took people captive through philosophy and empty deceit based on human tradition and based on elements of the world rather than Yahuwah. That's exactly what he did. Right there in verse 8. And then he goes on to promote the false doctrine of the Trinity. Verse 9. For the entire fullness of Yahuwah's nature dwells bodily in Christ. Okay, so what does it say in John about how Yahuwah is spirit? Yahuwah is spirit. How could, if Yahuwah's nature is spirit, how could it be bodily? Right? How can it be bodily in Christ? It can't. Because he never changes. So people who believe in the Trinity and claim to believe in a God that doesn't change, they're contradicting themselves. They're hypocrites. Okay? And then he goes on to say, you were also circumcised in him with circumcision not done with hands, by putting off the body of flesh in the circumcision of Christ. No, that's not how it works, Paul. Nice twisting there. Circumcision not done with hands. So how can you circumcise the foreskin of your flesh as commanded a permanent covenant with Yahuwah when it's not done with hands? And then you were buried with him in baptism. Okay, so yeah, see, if you do more studying on the satanic rituals, that'll make a lot more sense, the buried with him in baptism thing. So going back to what Islam says about him. So Paul gave a new definition of baptism. Okay, Paul gave a new definition of baptism, which I just showed you here. For him, it was something to do with the original sin and then the alleged death and resurrection of Jesus. Okay? For Jesus and his followers, a baptism was just a bath or an ablution to purify themselves physically, ritually, and spiritually. But with Pauline interpretation, it becomes a symbol of belief in Jesus' so-called death and resurrection. And that, of course, they don't believe in Jesus or Yahusha as the son of Yahuwah, right? They just think he's a prophet in Islam. But it's interesting how that those in Islam can see that Paul changed things, okay? And it goes on to say, we as Muslims accept early tradition, and that is what Islam has preserved and reaffirmed. We do not accept the later interpretation and doctrinal aberrations. Guys, I mean, they can see that, okay? So I'm like, okay. Now I'm really curious about John the Baptist, right? I'm really curious. So I went digging some more. And I went and I found that John the Baptist is very well known. And it says here that he is revered as a major religious figure in Christianity, Islam, the Baha'i faith, I think that's how you say it, the Druze faith, and Mandanism. Sorry guys, I'm slaughtering these names. But it's really interesting how John the Baptist is known through all these faiths. It makes you wonder what he was really preaching out there in the wilderness. Especially when there's no talk of circumcision. And then the way it's taught, and the way it was taught to me when I came out of Mormonism, is when we're baptized, that's when we're grafted in, right? The only person teaches the theology of grafting in is Paul. So we know we can't trust that. But what truly is this, okay? In John 15, we read, Yahusha tells us who we are when we believe. When we believe and we start to spiritually grow after we receive the truth, we are like a budding vine. We're a bud on the vine, okay? And we grow and we grow and we grow. And that's what it is. It's not that we never were there, but we have to accept it. We have to awake. We have to believe before we can start growing. We have to be born again. And that's another message that I'm going to talk about too, is what it means to truly be born again. And how that happens is going to be another message. But here in John 15, Yahusha tells you, I am the vine of truth, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that bears not fruit, he takes away. So if you're not growing and you're not digging for the truth and you're not having some kind of new experience with him every day, and you are not sharing what he shares with you, because again, once he shares truth with you, you are obligated to share it with others. That is your duty, right? But if you do not bear fruit, you will be taken away. And every branch that bears fruit, he purges it. Sometimes we get pruned and it's not very fun. But that's because once we do, we go, oh wait, that was wrong. I have to go back. Then we can bear more fruit. It means we can come back with more stuff that he's shown us that's true. Just like this whole discovery he's led me on regarding circumcision and baptism, right? Bring forth more fruit. And now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Yes, if we believe his word and we keep his commandments, we can be clean through his blood. Anytime we take a misstep, we can repent. Okay? Abide in me and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine. No more can ye except ye abide in me. It's a decision, right? We have to cling to him. He is the source of living water. If we're not drinking from that living water every day, we cannot grow. Okay, and if you're not growing, you'll be cast off. In verse 5, he says it right here. His followers, he names his followers here, his true followers. And you'll see that they're not Christian. He says, I am the vine. Ye are the Netzarim. He didn't say ye are the Christians. No. Ye are the Netzarim. He that abides in me and I in him, the same brings forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing. And he said it twice. Isn't that interesting how he repeats himself twice, back to back? Okay. I am the vine. Ye are the Netzarim. So that is why I have disavowed being Christian, because I am not a Christian. And Christians are the ones that follow the false Jesus Christ, which is the image of the beast. And I will post that video below in a pinned comment as well for you to examine and take to Father. So again, my sheep hear my voice and I know them and they follow me. We do not follow another's voice. Anything we hear, like I said, we know his voice. And so if we hear something that in print looks like he said it, but it doesn't sound like something he would say, we know his voice. John 10, I am the good shepherd, and I know my sheep, and Yahuwah, I am known of mine. I think that's Yahuwah. I'm still learning to read Hebrew. And I am known of mine. And as the Father knows me, even so know I the Father. I lay down my life for the sheep. And other sheep I have which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice. And there shall be one fold and one shepherd. There is only one holy people of Yahuwah. There is only one shepherd, Yahusha HaMashiach. There was one law, one covenant, one way, one life. There's no Jew versus Gentile. There's none of that. There are only believers and unbelievers. And the believers are of one fold. Doesn't matter if they're black, doesn't matter if they're white, doesn't matter their nationality, doesn't matter their heritage. If they are believers and they have come to fully accept him and they understand the truth and they are keeping his commandments, then they have Yahuwah's mark on them. And they are of the one fold of the one shepherd. Okay? And then Yahusha goes on to talk to the Pharisees about this. There was division again among the Yehudim for these things, and many of them said, he has a devil and he is mad. Why hear ye him? I've had people say that about me too, as I'm teaching what he's showing me. I'm like, look guys, this is what Yahusha taught. This contradicts this in the Bible, that they're saying that I'm a devil and that I'm mad. Why? Don't listen to her, right? That's exactly what they said of Yahusha. 21, others said, these are not the words of him that has a devil. Can a devil open the eyes of the blind? Yeah, because some of them were saying like, well, wait a minute, guys. He's been doing all these miracles and wonders. I mean, he can, can the devil open the eyes of the blind? No, the devil only blinds people, which is another clue that Paul was false because Yahusha never blinded anyone. And it was at Jerusalem that the feast of Hanukkah, then it was winter, and Yahusha walked in the temple of Shalom's porch, which is King Solomon's porch. Then came the Yehudim round about him and said unto him, how long do you make us doubt? Yahusha's making them doubt. How long do you make us to doubt? If you be the Hamashiach, tell us plainly. And Yahusha answered them and said, I told you, and ye believe not. Right? The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me. But ye believe not, because you are not my sheep, as I said unto you. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me, and I give them eternal life. And they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. My Father, which gave them to me, is greater than all. And no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand. That right there is also evidence that the Trinity is false. I and my Father are Yahad, which is one. Okay? So we see here in Matthew 5, where it says, don't think I came to abolish the law or the prophets. I did not come to abolish, but to fulfill, to ratify, to strengthen, to seal the deal again. His blood was the seal on the law. It is in force. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not the smallest letter, not one stroke of the letter will pass away from the law until all things are accomplished. Okay? And here in Ephesians, we have Paul contradicting that, where he says, he made of no effect the law, consisting of commands and expressed regulations. He made no effect? No. He ratified it. He made it in clear effect. It is something that we will all be held accountable for. Ecclesiastes 12, 13, and 14. That is the whole duty of man, is to fear Yahuwah and keep his commandments. There's no way that Yahusha made the law into no effect. No way, Paul. No way. And then here's a good example of Paul speaking out the other side of his mouth. Do we then nullify the law through faith? Absolutely not. On the contrary, we uphold the law. So which is it, Paul? Why do you uphold a law that has no effect? There's no effect from the law. Why would you uphold a law that you claim has no effect? It's so interesting how people don't see it, the contradiction that comes straight out of Paul's mouth. And then people go, oh, but Brenda, you're taking one scripture out of context, blah, 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 cherry picking. No, not really. But when you read through the way Paul writes, he is so long-winded that he'll start with point A, but won't get to point B until maybe the end of that chapter or the next. I mean, he does that to confuse people. And then here too, Romans 8, he says, therefore there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. And if you research what Christ Jesus means, it'll blow your mind. Because the law of the Spirit of life is in Christ. Jesus has set you free from the law of sin and death. So if it's the law of sin and death, why would you uphold the law that has no effect? Can you guys see this? Can you see this? Yahusha has set you free from the law of sin and death, yet you are to uphold the law, though it has no effect, according to Paul. What a demon. What a demon. This is a false prophet, guys, in the book of Revelation. So yeah, again, Jesus set you free from the law of sin and death, and yet you're supposed to uphold the sin and death, but then it has no effect. It doesn't make any sense at all. Going back to Leviticus, Yahuwah makes it very clear that there is one people, one covenant, one law, one shepherd, one fold. Leviticus 24:22. You shall have one manner of law, as well for the stranger as for one of your own country. For I am Yahuwah Elohim. Okay? This is it right here. This is what we're to do. Ecclesiastes 12, 13, and 14. Okay? Let us hear the conclusion of the matter, the whole matter. Fear Yah and keep his commands, for this is the whole duty of man. For they will be judged for all that they do, good or bad. And if you have done bad and you have not repented, you will not receive forgiveness, you will not receive mercy, and any sin will send you to hell. This is an important message, guys. You must test everything. Baptism is not required. Circumcision is. Circumcision has been buried under baptism to keep people from seeing its importance. That is the mark of Yahuwah in the flesh for men of the fold. It is important. And if you want to study more on the importance of why that is, it's directly linked back to Adam's decision in the Garden of Eden. And there's a whole lot there too. That's where I've been just going down that rabbit hole of, wow, what really went down in the Garden of Eden? Woo-hoo-hoo. A lot. It wasn't just a little oopsie mistake. It was actually rebellion. It was rebellion that was beginning there. But keep digging, my friends. Again, don't cling so tightly to this book put together by the enemies of Yahusha. There is truth in it, but there are tests. Proverbs 25:2. Father does test us. He does refine us in the refiner's fire. He does see if we're willing to take the next step. And if we're willing to take the heat, if we're willing to take the heat for standing for the truth and shining our light. Because remember, think about this. The hotter that metal is heated, the brighter it glows. Okay? Somebody gets white hot. And that's where some of us are right now in the refiner's fire. We are white hot. But many people don't see it. And they can't see it because it blinds them. The light and the heat, they can't stand it. Because why? Because they're not his. And they're actually tares. And it's becoming more and more evident who the tares are. Father has been showing me how to identify them, even looking at one physically. People go, oh, you can't judge, Brenda Lee, you can't judge. Yeah, well, Satan likes to use that scripture out of context because it also goes on to say we're to judge righteous judgment and we're to seek discernment through the Ruach HaKodesh. And because those of us who are true believers, born again, filled with the Ruach HaKodesh, we can see right through people. That way we don't get entangled and we can shut down the enemy's argument. And there is no defense. There's no way they can defend themselves. So, yeah, so dig into it. If this message applies to you, to some of you men out there, it might be time to think about what the next step might be. You might need to call a doctor. Unfortunately, there's the only way you can do that is have a doctor get involved. But if you need to be circumcised, that's something to consider because you can see now how very, very important it is. If you stuck through to the end of this message, hopefully you've been edified. Hopefully it will give you some more to think about and give you some ammunition and the strength to be able to share this truth, which is important. So, Baruch you all.